What I'm about to share may be true, or it may not. That's the nature of my work. As a private investigator, I get calls to find people's pasts, grandmothers, grandfathers, anyone a family has lost to time. One recent case sent me into Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana, into a small parish genealogy library in Lake Charles. In a quiet corner of the stacks, I found an old manuscript that lit the fuse. Its title stopped me. Red Bones, the Neutral Strip, or No Man's Land, between the Calcasieu and Sabine Rivers in Louisiana and Texas. Credited to Webster Talma Crawford, 1955. On page 3, a passage jumped out. An elder red bone, a term historically used in that region for a mixed ancestry community, was quoted hinting that some among them traced descent from the 10 lost tribes of Israel. The manuscript went further, noting that early investigators speculated about Moorish blood in their ancestry. It cited reports that some Spanish priests in early North America believed Native Americans were linked to the lost tribes. It listed well-known colonial voices: John Eliot, the Mathers, Roger Williams, William Penn, who entertained variations of that idea. It mentioned the English trader James Adair, who spent 40 years among southern tribes and published elaborate arguments to the same effect. It referenced Lord Kingsborough's massive work insisting, to his own satisfaction at least, that American Indians were Jews. And it repeated claims, controversial then and now, that people of Yucatan were Ethiopian Christians, alongside scattered Spanish accounts alleging encounters with black Moors already living in the Americas. I'm not vouching for any of it. I am saying that cluster of claims, packed into a single page of a forgotten local history, is what pulled me into this investigation. What if the world of the Bible didn't unfold where we think it did? What if Eden, Canaan, even Egypt were not across the Atlantic, but right here in the Americas? It's a bold claim. So let's take a clear-eyed, investigative walk through a fringe but fascinating hypothesis. That key biblical places might map onto the American landscape, and that some Native American traditions could, just maybe, echo the lost tribes of Israel. We'll quote the King James Bible, look at odd maps, unusual trees, legends of giants, and an Egyptian name that might whisper inside the word America. We'll stay skeptical, respectful, and honest about what's evidence and what's speculation. Genesis paints Eden with surprising geographic detail. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into 4 heads. And again, the gold of that land is good. There is bdellium and the onyx stone. A mid-20th century Floridian, L.V. Edison Callaway, thought that description matched the Apalachicola River system in the Florida Panhandle. He mapped the 4 heads to the Chattahoochee, the Flint, Spring Creek, and Fish Pond Creek, 4 waterways meeting in an Eden-like corridor east of the Apalachicola. Here's where it gets interesting. That same corridor is the only natural home of the Florida torreya, a critically endangered conifer locals once nicknamed the stinking cedar. Callaway believed this tree was the Bible's mysterious gopher wood from which Noah built the ark. Is that proven? Number. Is it intriguing that a unique cedar grows only here, right where a 4-headed river system lives? Absolutely. Eden's good gold and onyx? North Georgia, upstream in the same watershed, hosted America's first major gold rush in the 1800s, and the broader Appalachian belt carries gemstones, including onyx in places. Callaway leaned hard on that alignment. He even opened a roadside Garden of Eden park in the 1950s with hand-painted signs. Adam and Eve's first home, where Noah made the Ark of Gopher Wood. Today, The Garden of Eden Trail in Torreya State Park remains a beautiful hike, whether or not you buy the theory. If Eden can be reimagined, could Canaan be remapped too? On modern U.S. maps, you'll find Utah's Jordan River flowing into the Great Salt Lake, a literal Dead Sea. Nearby stands Mount Nebo, echoing the mountain where Moses first saw the Promised Land. The town of Moab sits just down the road. Coincidence? Maybe. Eerie? A little. Even the names Utah and Canada sound suspiciously like Judah and Canaan. Mainstream history explains these names via local tribes and European settlers. Alternative researchers hear something older, a re-emergence of ancient names embedded in the land. Now, about those lost tribes. After Assyria conquered the northern kingdom of Israel in 722 BC, 10 tribes disappeared from the biblical storyline. The King James Apocrypha adds this: "Those are the 10 tribes who would go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt." Some have read that as a cryptic nod to the Americas. In the 1700s and 1800s, observers like James Adair and Elias Boudinot lived among or interviewed native communities and reported Israel-like customs. Belief in one great spirit, purification practices reminiscent of Mosaic law, ark-like sacred chests carried on poles and never set on the ground, festivals that felt like echoes of tabernacles, and even scattered claims of circumcision-like rites in older times. Linguistic notes also made the rounds. Tribal chants that sounded like hallelujah, divine names that resembled Yah or Eloah, and the occasional native word that looked tantalizingly close to a Hebrew root. We should be cautious. Languages collide, listeners mishear, and coincidences happen. But the older literature is full of these parallels. On the genetics front, the mainstream consensus is clear. Most Native American ancestry traces to ancient migrations from Siberia across Beringia. That said, a rare mitochondrial DNA marker, haplogroup X, shows up in a few native groups, particularly in the Great Lakes, and is also found in parts of the Near East and Mediterranean, but not much in East Asia. Researchers explain this through deep pre-Ice Age population structure, not recent Israelites. Others see it as a tantalizing thread. Either way, it's a curiosity that keeps the conversation alive. And an important note: Native American identities and traditions are diverse and living. Some communities reject lost tribe narratives. Others have their own stories of crossings and homelands. Consider these parallels respectfully as questions, not verdicts. Numbers 13:33 records the spy's fear. "And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers." Throughout the 1800s and early 1900s, American newspapers and local histories reported unusually large skeletons, 7, 8, even 10 feet tall, pulled from mound builder sites in the Ohio and Mississippi valleys. Modern scholars chalk most of this up to measurement errors, tall tales, and outright hoaxes. Fair. But the sheer volume of consistent reports is odd. If even a fraction were legit, it would echo the Bible's giants in the earth. As for the cedars of Lebanon used in Solomon's temple, consider America's arboreal giants, the redwoods and sequoias. "The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon." In a New World setting, those cedars might just be California's skyscraper trees, not proof, just another rhyming pattern. The Exodus defined Israel, a miraculous crossing of the Red Sea. 17th century European maps often showed California as an island, separated from the mainland by a long strait labeled Mare Vermiglio, the Vermilion, or Red Sea. Map error, almost certainly, fed by bad reports and myth, but tuck that label away. Geology reminds us the American West once held vast inland lakes. Lake Bonneville covered much of Utah before crashing out in a cataclysmic flood. Death Valley, today a salt pan below sea level, held deep water in the Pleistocene. The Gulf of California, still called the Vermilion Sea for its reddish plankton blooms, could, under extreme tectonic conditions, send water inland. A major quake or series of floods might briefly part a channel, then slam shut. Is that the Red Sea? It's speculation. But it's not geologically absurd. And it would explain why early maps kept labeling a Western Red Sea for centuries. If Israel's story unfolded in America, then Egypt, their oppressor, must be here too. In 1909, a sensational Arizona Gazette story claimed Egyptian-style artifacts, mummies, golden urns, hieroglyphs, were found in a Grand Canyon cavern. The Smithsonian denied it. No verifiable site has ever been produced, and most historians tag it a hoax. Still, the legend feeds a broader question. Did Egyptian culture touch the Americas in deep antiquity? Even without the cave, the symbolism is rich. The United States has its own Cairo and Memphis, and the Mississippi has been compared to the Nile, a breadbasket river feeding civilizations. And then there's the language hook. In addition to Kemet, the Black Land, and Deshret, the Red Land, ancient Egyptians used Tameri, often glossed the Beloved Land. Egyptologists record T-Amri as a legitimate endonym. Alternative writers note how Tameri sounds uncomfortably close to T-America. No, that's not the accepted etymology of America, which traces to Amerigo Vespucci. But as a poetic name echo, it's powerful. The beloved land remembered across an ocean in a new beloved land. Then there are the cartographic anomalies. The Peary Race map of 1513 sketched South America's coastline with eerie accuracy and included a southern landmass some think resembles Antarctica, long before its official discovery. Peary Rice said he compiled older charts, some supposedly dating to the time of Alexander the Great. The Orontius, Phineus, and Mercator maps showed oddly detailed polar regions. Did ancient mariners, maybe even peoples remembered in the Bible, chart the globe before the Middle Ages? The mainstream answer is probably not. The hidden history answer is maybe yes. Fragments survive in Renaissance map rooms. Again, not proof, just another thread. So pull the threads together. Eden mapped in Florida, with a four-headed river and a unique gopher wood. Canaan reflected in Utah, Jordan, Dead Sea, Nebo, Moab, and in chants, customs, and legends, some claim echo Israel. Giants, if you trust the old clippings, buried in Ohio's mounds. A Red Sea remembered in Vermilion waters and Weird Island, California maps. Egypt whispered by Tameri, the beloved land. Name echoed perhaps in America. And a persistent, centuries-old idea that Native Americans may carry some lost tribe's heritage. Here's the honest part. Mainstream archaeology and genetics do not accept this reconstruction. Most of the data points have conventional explanations, naming by settlers, linguistic coincidences, newspaper exaggerations, the Bering migration model, and the Amerigo Vespucci origin of America. Fair enough. But this is an investigation, not a verdict. The task is to respect the consensus and keep asking sharp questions. Because sometimes the coincidences stack up. Sometimes an overlooked map label or a rare tree species taps you on the shoulder and says, "Look again. Speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee." That's Job 12:8. So listen to this land, the Apalachicola and Chattahoochee, the Great Salt Lake and Mount Nebo, the redwoods, the deserts, the canyons, the mounds. Whether you see sacred pattern or clever pareidolia, the conversation itself matters. If this sparked new questions or new skepticism, that's healthy. Which piece felt strongest? What did we miss that you've seen in the field, the archives, or your community's oral history? If you're a linguist, geneticist, or historian, bring sources and join the discussion. Reread Genesis 2, Numbers 13, and 2 Esdras 13 in the King James Version. Compare old maps of California as an island, read about Torreya Taxifolia and Lake Bonneville, and follow the curiosity where it goes. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm telling you the American landscape might be holding a story we haven't fully heard yet. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep investigating.